I just thought I was limitless. Like, what do you mean? I was in my 20s. So the first important thing to understand about a burnout is that it doesn't happen right away. It doesn't slap you. Like, it really takes time to build up. We are great at dismissing things. So when we start getting these symptoms that are, I'm going to take a paracetamol for my headache. Oh, I'm going to have coffee because I didn't sleep. We find solutions to literally all of it until panic attacks start happening. And then you're like, I feel like I stopped breathing, exactly how you said it.
That's your body alarming you, isn't it? It's saying, please stop.
It literally needed to give a strong reaction for you to do something about it. It's horrible. It's horrible. Quality of my life went so down. And I really wish there was someone to tell me this when I was younger. Really, people that are in their early 20s, anytime in their life, to really take these signs seriously, because you don't want to get there.
What are the signs of a burnout and how can we take control back? Welcome to Realistic Happiness, the podcast designed to explore a practical, grounded approach to achieving and maintaining happiness without the unrealistic pressure to always be positive or perfect. I'm Daisy Ilaria, your host, and each week we'll dive into real conversations, practical tips, and science-backed strategies to help you build a balanced and achievable sense of happiness. Each episode, I'll be joined by inspiring guests to share their insights and hacks for better work, relationships, and well-being. Realistic happiness is not about being happy all the time, but rather about acknowledging and accepting the ups and downs of life. It involves developing a mindset that allows us to respond to adversity in a way that encourages growth and resilience. So, if you're ready for real, relatable guidance on finding more peace and purpose in your life, you're in the right place. Here's to finding your version of realistic happiness. Basma, welcome to Realistic Happiness.
Thank you for having me.
Why do you think so many employees remain disengaged in the workplaces? And why do people choose to stay?
I think I'll answer the second question first, because I think people stay because of the importance of having a job and the fact that there isn't so many choices anymore. I think the state of the economy at the moment doesn't give people a lot of options for them to just quit and look for something different. We see people that are really highly skilled, people that have really good diplomas struggling to find jobs nowadays. So I think people have it in the back of their mind that, what is my other option? At least I have a job now. And I think the reason also people are disengaged in general is that work used to be a place where we would go to find fulfillment, to find friends, to find something to work for. But we also notice that companies are becoming very greedy. So there is this disconnect between where for what am I working versus, how the big picture. And a lot of companies are making a lot of money, but it's not getting back to people. So you feel that you're just slaving your way and the company is just pocketing so much money and you're getting nothing in return. So it's better to just safeguard yourself, do your job, and then leave at 5. Because what are you getting out of it after all?
Yeah. And when do you think this shift happened exactly?
I mean, my first instinct is to say COVID. Because people had a bit of time to stop the wheel from running. Because I think once you get into your 9-to-5 job or any job in general, you just start having projects, you have deliveries, you have places to go, you have the gym, you have responsibilities. So you don't get a window for you to stop and think, oh, is this okay? Is this right for me at the moment? And COVID as a time, because it forced people to stay home, which meant that it forced people to change their routine. It gave them the space to breathe and think outside of that routine, This, I think, was one of the biggest times that people started to get disengaged because they had the time to think. And it also related to companies' layoffs, the recent layoffs that we see. We see companies that are having profit year after year, yet they are having layoffs. And whenever someone wants to give you the reason, like the CEO is giving the reason or a VP is giving the reason, it's just like, oh, the state of the economy, oh, the inflation. And I'm like, no, you have profit year after year. What do you mean? Why can't we just split this together? This is just corporate greed. So I think also people connecting this and seeing that even if I work really hard, I might just get laid off. So why am I going to do this? I might as well just come again, clock in, clock out, and have my life. At the end of the day, my salary technically is going to come at the end of the month. And I think one of the biggest things that usually a 9 to 5 used to give is the stability. Once you get in, you get your permanent contract. You're like, I'm in, I'm not going to get laid off, I'm not going to get fired. I can have a family, I can buy a home, I can actually plan my life. Now you never know. It could be like tomorrow someone is going to come and say, oh, so sorry, the company's going to get dissolved and you're going to be redundant. So this also gave people this moment of realization that I am not safe, and that's why I need to safeguard myself. And the first instinct is just to disengage and think, okay, I'm just going to do what I have to do and step back.
I agree. And also with social media, LinkedIn, TikTok coming into play now more than ever after COVID. And now Gen Z is part of our workforce as well, and a bit more open, like, how do you say it? Like they talk more openly, right? And they know their rights and they stand for what they believe in. And I reckon when this shift happened, they kind of saw our environment that the millennials and Gen X, etc., accepted and were like, no, I'm out of here. I don't agree with this at all. So I think that combination as well comes into play. And social media being so dominant in our lives, we're seeing people being laid off live. They're just recording themselves and we're just thinking, oh shit, like that can happen to me. So that fear and that mistrust with like the employer versus the employee is so prominent at the moment. It's so visible, and we're seeing other people being laid off, other people explaining their stories about their permanent contracts, and then all of a sudden they're open for work and they have nothing. It's really scary, you know. So like you said, that stability is no longer there. Is it also up to the companies to be just more transparent then and involve people in these communications?
Definitely. I think I agree that the state of the economy is unstable. It's not something that we are denying and saying, oh, they're lying to us. But I think the way it's being dealt with and the priorities companies are taking is not putting people first. And this shift of not putting people first became, I think it also got prominent the moment companies got even bigger and bigger. I think with medium-sized companies, because you have a certain number of employees that you know personally, you tend to prioritize the welfare of people a little bit more because you know them and you're like, this is their livelihood. I'm not going to prioritize making so much money and then actually letting the people go because you know them. While with bigger corporates and multinationals, you know, you have like hundred thousands of people. And when the C-suite, they sit in the meeting room, they see the numbers and people always come as maybe they are important. You know, we have values, we have vision, we have people first kind of strategy. But when it comes to the, you know, taking decisions, it always comes secondary or third or even like way below. Um, and and the fact that the like people also like to work for bigger companies. You know, that's where you want to go because you think, oh, from outside it looks fantastic. They have great processes, benefits. I'm gonna get in. My career is gonna be like set. And and I really like what you mentioned earlier about the millennials, like in the Gen Z, the fact that social media brought this transparency. And corporates really need to follow this transparency. And also the type of leadership that they have in the company needs to change from this leadership where you know what you're doing. Because again, we're not denying that the state of the economy is really unstable and changing. There is a lot of instability. So you move from this leadership where you know what you're doing, you can give this clarity to your team, to adaptable leadership. You need to be able to foster an environment where failing is okay, not knowing the answers is okay, and that also keeping up so that you can, as an employee, get information, get a bit of sense of what's going on so you can also make a better choice for yourself instead of keeping it very hush until, oh, we have layoffs. So the transparency that companies have to do goes beyond just the report, you know, the yearly report. Now they have sustainability reports. You're like, yeah, we're very transparent with everyone. But I'm like, are you transparent with your people? Are you very careful with these human beings that came into your company with dreams, with plans, with career aspirations? And do you put them first in your strategy when you're discussing how are you going to solve this instability your company is going through?
Yeah.
So I think I had a discussion before with someone who works with heads of HR, like and CHROs and CPCOs, and they were in a room of about 12 people, 12 CPCOs, and they were discussing the state of what should we do in people and culture, how should we make sure that people are engaged and satisfied with their job. And then they asked the question, do you have control over your budget as a CPCO? Can you like at like during the year have full control, or you don't have that full control? If the CFO comes and says we're slashing this, you have no say. And 12 people, 10 out of 12, said that they don't have a say. If the CFO comes in and says, we have to slash this budget, so it could be learning and development, it could be leadership development, it could be engagement tools, whatever, well-being tools, it's more likely that that is the first thing. I mean, this is not news that it's the first thing that usually gets impacted in a company, but that also shows what the company cares about. Because if you actually wanted to have your people fulfilled and satisfied, you wouldn't slash that budget first.
Yeah.
So it was also interesting to see that even if you are CPCO, you are in the management team, you are on the board, you still don't have control over your budget, which means that still we are at a time where people and culture still needs to work towards being very significant decision maker. So this is also why the transparency gets impacted, because after all, the person who is strategizing people and culture, who should be looking after the welfare of everyone, sometimes doesn't have that strong of a say. Yeah.
Yeah. And also wellness and well-being in the workplace is, in Europe especially, it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment. I'm not sure how seriously companies are taking this.
Very good question. I think I've been in environments where it's taken really seriously, like in the fact that we do want to create an environment where people thrive. And the people behind this who drive this understand that, people that work with you in the company, they are not they're not resources. They're not also, I mean, we saw the change going from human resources to people driven cultures. We don't want to call people resources anymore because it diminishes of their value. Um, and there are people that really push this and want to have their whole processes of like the process of well-being embedded within their HR culture or people culture. But of course, there is also just this need to slap well-being into your strategy, because I think there's also misunderstanding of what well-being is, after all. I think it stays very surface for a lot of companies that it's a bunch of benefits. And you find quite often that the person who handles well-being in a company is their benefits director or benefits department. And it doesn't sit, for example, with learning and development, or doesn't sit with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And while these departments, I mean, the benefits department is very contractual in a way. So once they decide what well-being package should be, it's packaged. It's not something that we're rolling out.
Yeah.
While if it sits within learning and development or within diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's more likely to be a project that is being rolled out. So then it needs a communication behind it. It needs change behind it. It needs a whole infrastructure and framework behind it. So you have this type, and I think seeing a bit if companies have the role of head of well-being, seeing if they have a well-being person internally, seeing if they have like a fully formed learning and development department, could tell you a little bit if they're more authentic about their well-being, or they're more, but if it sits within benefits, it's more likely that it's, I don't want to say performative, but it is performative. It's just because we need it now, because it's a buzzword, and we gotta be also ahead of the curve, or at least in the curve.
Yeah. And I've worked in companies where there was a benefits officer and also a huge learning and development department. And I found that, and it was a corporate setting, and I found it was very superficial what they were teaching us about being stress resilient, about being happy with mundane tasks, etc. It was just, it didn't feel like, it felt like it was just a checkbox. We did that training, everyone should feel okay now, they should stay. Whilst the feedback, including myself, I was like, I feel more stressed now doing that course. It triggered me, and it didn't answer the questions. So I feel like also the trainings that companies need to be a bit more detailed, a bit like hire an expert to actually understand like the individuals and like what the issue is, and not expecting miracles after
Agree.
one workshop.
Yeah, definitely. And I also noticed that like this type of workshops, if you don't have like if people are already busy with their work and you add on top that they have to do this workshop, like they're already busy and they're gonna make exactly what you said. It just makes you more stressed that you have. First of all, you have to attend because it's good for you. Second, you learn certain things that maybe, open certain, it opens your mind to what's going on with you. And that could be really triggering. Like you are having a training about burnout prevention, and then the person is saying, what are the symptoms? And you're like, ooh, this sounds like me. And then you get out of that meeting or that workshop and you're just with that realization that maybe you're burning out. Then there is nothing afterwards. There's no care. There's no person to talk to. There's no structure really. There's no framework. And I mean, I've been in a position where, as a well-being manager, where we wanted to work on the structural changes because, of course, before you can ask people for their time to do these workshops, you need to make sure that their time allows them to do this. So, for example, to establish half a day, which is your learning half day, or make sure that the working culture or the ways of working allow people to schedule their day in a way that they can attend this workshop. This is like literally the basics. On the other hand, I also noticed that change comes very hard and it takes a long time for people to accept that this is something that is good for them. So when you come and take people a little bit of surprise and tell them, hey, you have to do a workshop on resilience because we know you need to be resilient because times are uncertain. People are busy with their lives. They're like, what are you talking about? I just want to do my 9 to 5 and leave and go pick up my kids and have dinner with my family. Like, what are you talking about? So it's also bringing this awareness in a way where people can open up a little bit to these possibilities. And this is a lot of change management. And this is why well-being takes a really long time and it's a commitment from the company. And sadly, you could see also that like a lot of businesses, everyone wants results fast.
Yeah.
I want data. I want data to show me how many people joined this workshop, how many people are going to be less stressed, and how is this going to impact my sick leave numbers. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. I wish it could work like that, that people, as you said, like a miracle, it's just going to work like a miracle and people are going to feel better. But change takes a long time when it comes to habits, when it comes to routines and beliefs. And it's it's decades of how you should operate in the workplace that we're trying to like disrupt at the moment. And if you want to do that disruption, first you need to take people, gently. You don't have to like shake them and be like, you have to do resilience workshop. You have to be very mindful with them and tell them, hey, let's talk a little bit. Your mental health is important for your performance, it's important for your quality of life. And once you tell people that their quality of life is going to be improved and your quality of work is going to be improved, you get them a bit to listen to you and then slowly, slowly take their hand, which again, it's not something that we're used to in the workplace. The workplace is very like, get things done. While when it comes to this area, you have to be mindful of people and also the differences. I think this is something that is very important. And I think myself sometimes forget about it, is that how people are very different, which means how the message also should be different so that you can reach them and tell them that this is, differently how this is good for them. We talk a lot about neurodivergent nowadays. Like we see people coming forward with their ADHD, if they're in the autism spectrum. I mean, when I say more and more people are coming forward, it's actually still very little from what actually is. And we don't really know the level of diagnosis that is undone, that is not done yet. So only these few people that come forward, you realize that, I've been talking to you with a person, I've been talking to them in words and trying to explain how mental health is important, while they can actually understand better if I used visualization, or if I just send them an email, or if I use 3 words instead of like a whole paragraph. So also these differences are very important, and that's why it makes it complicated, and it's way easier to tick it as a box and be like, oh, we did this, than dive into this.
Yeah. And I think just as you were explaining, I had a bit of a realization, which is what realistic happiness is all about, understanding and going in deep with all the topics. Do you think data has killed essentially like employee engagement and wellness? Because like it seems like every team has KPIs and is data driven. Even recruitment is data driven, and HR and wellness. And yeah, it's just ticking boxes and, oh, we did it. And is it going up or is it going down? Is it giving us profit and engagement and motivation? Or is it, are people leaving? Are they burning out, etc.? What do you think about this?
Uh, I am very passionate about this question. um, I think also I'm passionate about it because data has become so important also when I used to work in marketing and I used to work in the creative field. So there are certain things that are creative and visual and very emotion driven. It's a story. And of course you can measure so many things, but the emotions and what people would feel is something that is I want to die on the hill that you can't really like measure it in a way that is reliable. People feel differently. And I think in the space of people and culture and HR, it's a lot also about emotions. I mean, these are people. We're not dealing with like products and boxes and shoes and so on. These are very complex human beings. And of course, data is very important in the sense of understanding what's going on, but to have data on a day-to-day basis, on a month-to-month basis, to see how people are engaging, disengaging, how it's evolving, not evolving, how many are burning out, how many doesn't leave us the time to actually treat and actually take the time to understand the complexity of people. So usually one of my favorite tools when it comes to well-being measurements in general, and I would keep it to well-being, is the engagement survey that companies do once a year. And I think that as a data source, because we ask a lot of questions on leadership, engagement, there are different indexes, so you get a lot of information. And it's also something that needs to be pushed by managers and managers to their teams, and it has a lot of like you care about the anonymity of the people who reply as well. So there's a lot of work behind it to get certain data. And I think on a yearly basis is enough for us to understand what's going on. We don't have to do things monthly and quarterly and push pulse surveys all the time and really want to get a grasp of things. Because yes, it's great to get a grasp of things, but again, everything is changing. There is a lot of uncertainty. And to have this need of control and need to know, maybe it's not the best strategy at the moment when there is a lot of uncertainty and unclarity. So, and we also like, how there's a lot of discussion on the role of AI when it comes to people and culture and HR. And I think in most of the discussions that I've been part of, read about, listened to, it always comes down to you can't replace the people behavior with AI. So maybe we might be able to do all the admin, all the data, everything. But this person to person interactions that give you a lot of data that is not going to be put into an Excel sheet is what people and culture is about. And this is what we should come back to and not stray to try to deal with people and culture the same way we try to deal with finance, for example. Because yes, you can get a lot of data. Procurement can have a lot of data. Like there are certain workflows that benefit from data. People and culture, I would say, is a bit a space for more emotions and more interactions and emotional intelligence and interactions and conversations and
Yeah.
like building something that is deep, and it is a complex area rather than trying to get as much data to just have a beautiful slide and get into a town hall and say, oh look, our turnaround or turnover for people is this high or this low.
Hmm.
So it's also allocation of time. What do you want to allocate your time to? Because you have limited time, and in HR you should allocate it more to personal interactions that give you information.
Yeah. And we literally have the word human in our profession, in our industries. And I think what's important that you mentioned is that, yeah, the human element is now missing. So there's so many factors now. The fact that just a company being data driven itself can kind of tell you if they are in touch with their colleagues and employees and if they're prioritizing profit and the business itself versus Yeah, the humanity of it all. But I think something we haven't touched on, which is something that you relate to and I relate to, is companies putting this diversity kind of wash over themselves and hiring neurodivergent people, hiring people from abroad, relocating them, but not being ready for that, not being habituated
Mhm.
for that. So we don't thrive. You know, we feel misunderstood, we feel unheard, we feel like we're silenced, you know?
Yeah.
And I just want to talk about your experience because this is how you came to this whole realization and burnout, etc. So it'd be good to dive into your story about relocation and being an expat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I grew up in Morocco. I went to study in Morocco. When I had my master's, I wanted to have an experience abroad, and that's how I moved to Stockholm, which is very different than my culture. It's an environment that is completely like polar opposite of my culture. But everything was exciting at the beginning because it's new. It's something that, as a 23-year-old, I was like, wow, the snow, the buildings, the people, the interactions, and working in a Swedish company. It was a global Swedish company. I mean, I went with a student organization that took care of me. So there was the element of being taken care of as a foreigner when I just landed there that I'm so grateful for, because I think if that didn't happen, I don't think I would have lasted as long as I did, because it's very different and the shock is real when you get there. And the company, being Swedish, had quite flat hierarchy, which also allowed me to be more open with my manager and also my manager to be more open with me. Uh, and and nobody really was at that time. There was no diversity. There was no DEI in the company whatsoever. So there were no processes to make sure that the foreigners that you have that come from different backgrounds. I mean, not only foreigners, but everyone with a different background, with a different, if they're neurospicy or not, if neurodivergent or not.
I love neurospicy. That's my favorite term.
I also like when we say that people are spicy. I also like it
Mm.
like spicy people, not spicy people.
Mm.
And like companies were not ready for it. It was always the expectation that when people would come, they would integrate, and it's up to them, if this is their choice, to actually find their place and, just be part of the whole culture. And after that, I mean, life happened, and then I moved to Amsterdam with a contract with my previous employer, and it was supposed to be permanent if I like go through my probation and the year, and they're happy with my work. And I think that the company really didn't have any processes to understand the consequences when you want people to move to work for you, because literally they changed their mind within the first year, even if my manager was very happy with me. And that caused a lot of turmoil in my life, in a way that I moved countries. I moved my life for
Mm.
you as a company. And even while saying this to them, my manager was super supportive, HR was super supportive, but leadership just didn't give a damn about my situation. It was just like, yeah, if you want, you can move to Germany. And I'm like, what do you mean? Because I was offered either to move to Düsseldorf or Amsterdam. And then I chose Amsterdam, even if my team was based in Düsseldorf. They gave me the choice. I mean, why would you give me the choice if, like, a year later you're going to change your mind? But also, there was a change of leadership. So I understand. I don't, maybe I understand, but I don't respect the change of decision. If you promise your relocated employees, a certain package or a certain situation, you have to uphold it, even if in my contract, even if I tried to get it in my contract that they didn't agree, but then they would just deny it, like, oh, sorry, the recruiter who promised this, oh, I'm so sorry, is not with us anymore. And
Mm.
I'm like, I don't care. You promised me, your entity promised me. It's not a person. That person represented you. And the the lack of empathy, I want to say,
Mm.
to people uprooting their life for you, for your company, for your return on investment, for your profit, and to leave me dry like that and be like, I'm so sorry. Knowing that I was working in well-being and I was working to make sure people had a better life and work environment. And me going through that as a person who is trying to support people having a better experience was very challenging. Considering also that most of my team was in Düsseldorf, so I didn't also have colleagues in Amsterdam. So it was very lonely and very inconsiderate from their part, and very, yeah, they had diversity, inclusion, and equity team. They did have this. I mean, I worked in the team where we were supposed to make it okay for, like, make an environment that was suitable for people to trust the employer. And this again ties back to the first question that you asked, like, why are people disengaged? It's because of such stories. And also I think, I mean, I didn't shut up about it. I was telling everybody about it. Look what they did to me. Because we're not in a time, in our lives where, oh my God, it's so shameful that they didn't renew my contract. I'm like, no, it's them. They're at fault. It's not me. I'm great. I'm great at what I do. I for sure know my value. This is also the thing, I think I'm very fortunate that I know my value. The fact that I went through my burnout took me so low for me to go back up in a stronger way, that now when people try to give the reasoning that, oh, sorry, we're going to let you go, I don't take it personal. It's not you're not giving a statement about my value to your company. You're giving me a statement of your misunderstanding of my value for your company. And that's, for me, your loss.
Yeah.
And I think, again, not everyone has the possibility to grow themselves in such a way and have a support system that also helped me tell me, yes, Basma, you're right. It wasn't your fault to trust them. Because also some other people tried to turn it around on me. Why did you trust them? It wasn't in your contract. And I'm like, I asked. They're like, but no, you didn't do your work from a law perspective that it should have been in your contract. And I'm like, I'm moving from one country to the other. I do not understand Dutch law. I trusted my employer, who is telling me, look, if everything goes right, if we like you, we're going to sign the contract with you. I wouldn't have moved permanently if I knew this was the case. I would have come, rented a place where I could stay for a year. Then if I knew that it was not gonna become a permanent, then I would be like, okay, I go back to Stockholm. The world is big. I can go anywhere. I know my value. You do not come and cheat, and what is the word? Scam me this way. So it is very sad that companies, even if they do have structures in place for mobility, for relocation, for DEI, they still actually don't apply it into this basic place of people who come from different backgrounds, people who do not understand the law when they come. They trust you a lot when they come here or any country. They really, it depends. For example, I always was thinking, what if I had a family and I also uprooted them to live with me here? Like, what if I took that decision? Luckily, I don't. Like, I could actually move around as easily as I come, but that is only because I am like that. I am someone who feels comfortable with changing environments, and it didn't come without a cost. I have very fluctuating energy levels, so for me to be strong to deal with a certain situation, it also means recovery and doing nothing for a long time. And that impact of my quality of life is really unfair. So I hope that the future, or where we're going as a corporate world in general, is that we really come back to the basics of, I mentioned at the beginning that small and medium companies do have these more human interactions because they know the people that work with them, is that we really go down to that. We need to come back to the point where when you promise something to your people, when you have someone who comes to you and tells you, oh, I have been diagnosed with ADHD or I have been diagnosed with autism, you do have something in place to take care of them. We're not in the 50s anymore where you're like, what is that? Also, the lack of understanding of what is that sometimes scares me because I'm like, where do you live? How, are you with us? And I know I consume a lot of content. I know I consume a lot of research. I know I'm on TikTok. I know what I'm on Reddit. I am on a lot of places that have information that maybe, it starts there and then it goes to everyone. The joke of things start on TikTok and then 2 months later they're on Instagram.
Mm.
I know I'm here, but I'm like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
We need to speed up the process of treating people the way you would treat another person. Let's come back to these values of connection, of, we want the best for each other, and we're not trying to, close ourselves and get individual.
Mm.
And this now triggered my this other part of individuality now in society. I think this also has a lot of impact on how companies are running, because we have become more individual. We have become more focused on ourselves in a way where it comes from protection, because you don't want to get hurt, you don't want to be cheated, you don't want to be scammed. So you're more likely to try to put your walls up and be with like your little circle or yourself. And we do not connect with each other on a human level of, hey, how are you? How is it going? I care for you because you exist also on the same planet as me. It's more like, I care that nothing bad is going to happen to me because it's so uncertain and so unstable. And this is so sad. Like, you really see how, as humans, we need this. We need the collective. We absolutely need the community. Yet, we are so pushed to the corner to care for ourselves as a way of protection that you always find yourself like, oh, I want to be outside, but but I do want to be part of a community, but people are not nice. And then we struggle with these things. Then when we come to decisions in people and culture or human resources, whatever part is the strongest in you is the one that is going to take over.
Yeah.
And if you're unlucky to be in an organization where leadership has a lack of empathy, you're not going to be okay in the long run. So you have so many people in companies and people in culture that want to do good. Like, I saw it firsthand. People that really want to fix issues. But you have one person who is the head, or who is the VP, or who is the CHRO, who have the most narrow-minded minds, who actually impact the lives of thousands and thousands of people. So that's why it's important to build this. I mean, at the end, sometimes this is what I want to say to people when I want them to come and join resilience workshops. It's like, you don't know who's up there, and you don't know who's going to ruin your life, and you don't know what's coming. So please come to this so that you are safe.
Yeah.
But I can't say it like this. I'll be like, oh, no, you have to be strong, without saying all the story behind it. But this is why I am a very pro growing yourself and trying to understand your value, and knowing that you're enough, and knowing that when people try to tell you something, you have to evaluate it with your real value, and understand that if you have your health, if you're okay, you will bounce back. You will bounce back. Like, there is no universe where you don't bounce back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two things, hopefully I remember both, that I wanted to say whilst you were speaking. Number one, just more of like a behind the scenes thing, is that when we noticed trends in the company of people burning out and people leaving within 12 months, it's become apparent that like just you telling someone, like your manager or a chief officer, for example, isn't enough. And this is where the whole data thing comes in. Like, I need proof. The amount of times I got asked, like, I need that in an Excel. And I was like, but this is me having coffee chats with people and telling me they're unhappy. This is me just being present on the floor and having these conversations that allows me to have these insights. So it's so strange how it's just completely separate. So this is just more of a behind the scenes, if anyone's wondering why there's such a misalignment, like within companies as well. Even if you are a HR director, even if you're so senior, it seems like there are stories or like our recollections of like our experience talking to people face to face, which is the most important thing. And the feedback like this isn't taken seriously because it's not jotted down. It's not in an article. It's not in an Excel sheet and sent to like 10 other VPs. So that's really strange, but it is happening and has been happening for the longest time. And with regards to like having like a community and tribe, you're on TikTok as well, the amount of people that say like, oh, at work, you just clock in, do your job, protect yourself, and then go home. Like, it's been a trend for the longest time. And that mindset, because we're such collaborative people, right? We need to find our tribe. We need to find our group, right? Of like-minded people. And having that mindset of, I can't trust even people in my team because they might take my job, or they might take that promotion, or they might tell my boss. It's that misalignment as well with being your authentic self at work and seeking partnerships and friends versus competition in the workplace, which is it's very sad. It's sad that this has become our reality,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. And it ties to the scarcity of job opportunities and the state of work at the moment. You know that you become, again, very focused on survival rather than thriving, because people can't move to the level of like moving away from survival to stability and to joy if their job can be gone and their source of income can be gone any moment. So it's way easier and more protective of ourselves to clock in, clock out, minimize the interactions, than actually build these relationships, because they can also be gone any moment. And where, I mean, we live in such a speed in our current times. Like, it's crazy that, when you think in the amount of text that we or emails that we receive within like 1 hour is probably what our great grandpa received in their lifetime. Maybe even more, because maybe they were not even writing letters to each other. Uh, and our nervous system is not capable of is capable, but is not doing it comfortably, and it's not enjoying it. It's doing it out of necessity and out of trying. We're in the process of evolution into something else. Like, probably our brains will become something else in like 200 years. But this current moment, the speed that we're living is the reason why we have so much anxiety, we have so much mental struggles, we have so much instability in general, like just this overwhelm. So also coming back to, if you already feel overwhelmed and overstimulated with life, again, you're going to clock in and clock out because you don't want to deal with, something that, again, could be taken away from you, something that maybe you're going to say a word and they're going to completely twist it and make it something else. You don't want to like the people you're with. And I find it so funny and so funny that, in a way, this is what we're pushed to do due to the current state of how companies are behaving. But at the same time, they're like, you have to come back to the office because the coffee chats are so important for building relationships. And I'm like, you understand that people are not feeling like good enough, like, not even good enough. You know that the fact of like forcing people into the office is not gonna take away the trauma that are giving to people. People are not gonna start opening up to each other at the coffee station because they're in the office. They have to trust you as an employer to do this. And by forcing them, I mean, you're even like going really down in their list of trust. And it's really funny. Like, it's like, how do you see this? How do you see that you are treating people really rough and like not creating an environment that is suitable for them to thrive? Yet you're asking them to come to the office so they can do something that they're not able to do because you're traumatizing them. Like, what is going on? And I am someone who, I mean, I like the office, but I like it in a every now and then situation. I also enjoy the focus that I have when I work from home, when I work from somewhere else, where anywhere but the office. The office needs to be also suitable for me to work there.
Yeah.
So I think this also, sometimes it's not taking into account that much. It's also like not prioritized the space where people are gonna exist, especially after COVID. People have new standards now of how crowded it's gonna be, how like their desk. The idea of hot desk also nowadays, with like you come in and then you choose a desk based on what is available. A lot of people are uncomfortable with it. I am one of them. I would love to have my desk because I put pictures, I put a lot of inspiration. I want to come and have my little space that is not shared by everybody. But that's me. A lot of other people are, people are different. But in order for this, like, if you want people to connect with each other and have these coffee conversations that you're so excited about in the office, give them peace of mind that their job is okay. Give them the peace of mind that, they have correct working hours. Give them the peace of mind that they're not going to be laid off. Give them the peace of mind of training their leaders to treat them right. Give them the peace of mind to have a culture where it's okay to fail. It's okay to do mistakes. Give them a culture where they get training so that they can grow and have a better mindset and fix your product issues better and innovate. Now they want everything without giving you anything. They want you to be entrepreneurial spirit, a rock star. Are these favorite words on
Guru.
guru, know it all. You have to be a go-getter.
A whole department as one person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we really don't know why people are leaving, or why are people disengaged, because people can't afford to leave anymore. If they could leave, they would leave you. It's really, I mean, I don't want to dramatize it by saying, or like, yeah, maybe it's not dramatizing it, but it's really sometimes gets to become an abusive relationship, because you're not leaving, not because you're not aware of, you just can't, because there isn't a better option for you, because of you're maybe I'm not going to find a job. And, I think through working time in the forever, I think there's always one who has the upper hand. Sometimes we have as employees the upper hand because they need us. Sometimes the employers have the upper hand, and I think they have the upper hand at the moment. And that's why, again, it's important to safeguard ourselves, but also don't forget that we need the community.
Yeah. And that builds trauma bonds at work, which are so popular. And it just makes sense now, the fact that people are being forced to come in. Some people might be burnt out, hence they're working from home. They're just forcing themselves to do this job and then go back to bed and be anxious about it for the rest of the night, not sleep, and then go again in the morning. So actually physically forcing people to come back and forcing people to be friends and acquaintances and work together without, again, instructions, without a foundation, same as relocation, same as neurodivergent people trying to thrive. It's just this misalignment again with management. Just ticking boxes and then bringing people in and you do you guys. We just need a profit record year. Talking about this, it sounds like the corporate environment isn't going to change anytime soon. And like you said, I like that you framed it as like, well, I don't like it. I actually dislike that you framed it as like a abusive relationship, because it is true. It does have those elements. And we're being like placed in a chokehold, and it's like they're making the decisions. So with your own experience with the burnout, etc., and now being, you've dove into it and researched about it, and you do these workshops and public speaking gigs. What are the signs of a burnout, and how can we take control back and maybe improve ourselves? What are the steps?
The signs, the first important thing to understand about a burnout is that it doesn't happen right away. It doesn't slap you like a flu, you just feel like your nose, and then 3 days later, you're just like all sniffy and bad and have a fever. It really takes time to build up. And the best chance to avoid a burnout and prevent it is to catch these signs a little bit at the beginning. One of the common ones is feeling exhausted. So you really you don't feel you're energized. And before getting exhausted, you're very tired. And we kind of normalized being tired in general. Like everyone is tired. It's rarely you would meet someone and they would say, I'm energetic. I am like so good with my life. A lot of times people are quite tired. So it became normal. So if you're like also feeling tired, you're not thinking, maybe I should rest or take something or like go to the doctor. Then that stays in, and then you're like at that level, and then starts moving to being exhausted, because you really feel that your muscles are heavy and you feel that you really don't have energy to do your daily chores. At work, you really like open your laptop and you're like, and like you don't have very good sleep. So sleep disruption is also one of the early signs. And when I say sleep disruptions, it's like a bit like a recurrent sleep disruptions. It's not one night that maybe you're a bit anxious and then you think maybe I'm burning out, but it's something that happens a lot, and which means that your body is not able to recover from the day. So also the whole detox of the body is not happening, and your hormonal levels are starting to get whack a little bit. You also start getting foggy. So you forget some things, You have a bit of a hard time to focus in meetings. You have a bit of a hard time to focus in life in general. And then that moves to having a bit of a dark cloud on your head. So things start to be a bit dire, and you feel that, why am I even doing this? And what is life even? And you start getting a bit in a dark mood, even if you're a bright person, and usually you don't feel like this. Because of course we fluctuate. Sometimes you feel sad. Of course, these are very normal emotions and very normal states. But when you get into this dark area, you feel that things maybe are not worth it. It's a bit, what is the point? And then that moves to, you start getting weird aches in your body. So maybe you're going to start having back pain. You never had back pain. You start having shoulder pain, neck pain, wrist pain, things that usually you don't have. You're just like, what is going on? And it's very similar. These pains are very similar to sore muscles after the gym. So if you start feeling that you're sore even if you didn't go to the gym, that's a bit of a telltale that you are not okay and you need to look what's going on. You also start getting disengaged, actually. You are not enjoying the things that you liked anymore. And things become very like stale, and they are not, that you lose the taste of things you like. And maybe your relationship with your support system, with your friends, family, partners, starts becoming a bit rigid, and you feel like people are not getting you. Then you move to being irritated. So I would just say, come and be like, I would open the fridge. And this is my experience. Like literally, I would like open the fridge, not find milk, and literally scream at my roommate and be like, "Where is the milk? Where is it? I told you to bring milk." This is very basic. Like this is not something for me to scream about. I'm a quite calm person who, yeah, I don't scream about not having milk. But it reached that. I also started to have situations at work where in meeting rooms, if someone is saying something that is dumb, and I would usually have the space to not call them out on it, I started to be really irritated by anyone who's saying something that is unreasonable. So I became quite aggressive in meetings. I would just be like, but you have to handle it yourself. And I'm very politically correct and a diplomatic person in meetings. Like, I want to get things done, and I would go a lot of ways to get my things done. So for me to be really face it like that was unusual. So being irritated, having a bit like being snappy at work or in my personal life. Then, in this, like when people start feeling this, it's very important to go to the doctor. Of course, I'm no doctor, so everything I'm saying is really based on my experience and research. So go to the doctor. I went to the doctor myself to understand if there was any elements that were either vitamins or my hormones were not okay or what was going on. And I found that my iron was very low. And this is quite common also. It's actually quite common to have low iron, low vitamin D, low B12, and this causes the weakness and the exhaustion. And once these things are fixed, people start to feel better. So sometimes it's not a full-on burnout. You just have very weak body with a lot of exhaustion. So it's easily fixable, which is one of the best cases. So I had a low iron, and I started taking pills to like a supplement. But I still didn't get any better, which was very weird because I'm like, why is this happening? And I had a very rough period, like for like 6 months, where I had to work a lot. And I also want to establish something very important, because sometimes we think that burnout is directly related to overwork, and like maybe your manager slaving you and trying like telling you, no, you can't leave before you finish this, and relating it to toxic environments. But it's much bigger than that. It's of course these elements that really push people to their limits, together with the way we operate as people. Because a lot of times I'm someone who's very ambitious, so I don't take no as an answer, even for myself. So even if I'm like, I have goals to reach, I'm going to get there. And I was really unaware of my limits and my abilities in general. That, if I use the jar is over. I just thought I was limitless. Like, what do you mean? I was in my 20s. So a lot of people who are ambitious and want to get places, they tend to burn themselves out because of this. Like the element of wanting it, the element of not having boundaries and limits, the element of a work who takes advantage of that. Because this is, again, I want a star, I want a self-starter, a go-getter. I want someone who doesn't have boundaries, basically.
Mm.
So you want to give it all because you're looking for a promotion, you're looking for recognition, you actually like what you do, and you want to see your projects running, you want to be able to present and grow, become this person. So there are environments that take advantage of that. Some do it consciously because they see that, oh, this person wants to be a go-getter, let's like use their energy. Some do it unconsciously because they're like, yeah, I'm just not going to stop you from going for what you want. And that's why, again, like these processes and frameworks at work are very important, because the manager should be able to tell their employee, no, to safeguard your sustainability, your energy, I know you want this project, but I'm not going to give it to you. And this is one of the best cases scenarios when managers actually start understanding their teams, because at that point, they're going to help them help themselves. And I didn't have that. We established this in my team after I returned from burnout. And it was fantastic because everyone was aware that you could burn out even if you loved your job, and that we have to look after each other, which was a beautiful thing, because literally, like my colleague would come to me and tell me, I think, Basma, you have this project is too much for you, I'm going to move it to someone else. This is the level of really taking care of your people. So coming back to your original question of the symptoms. So once things start to become like this, then I started having rashes. Having rashes is common as well. So you start having like these bumps that are red-ish in your body that, again, come from nowhere. They are weird skin rashes. Headaches. I had horrible migraines. Um, Even like it's common with people who don't usually have headaches and migraines. Some people suffer from like their allergies become very strong because the immune system goes very low. And then you have some autoimmune diseases that start showing up for different people. And this is a stage where you don't want to get there, because your body really gets dysfunctional in a way, because your cortisol level is too high, and then maybe it got super flat. You can't have adrenaline. Your adrenaline is also very low, so you can't really get up and do things. So when you start seeing these things a bit, um, anxiety is also one of them. Panic attacks are a big one. I never knew what a panic attack was until I got it, and I was like, am I dying, or what is happening? And then it started to happen literally every 2 days. Every time I wake up, I have tears in my eyes. I don't want to go to work. I literally wipe my tears like this and put my shoes and put my coat to go to work. And I'm like, is this it? Is this supposed to be my grown-up life where I'm like this girl who has this cool life in Stockholm, and I'm like crying? What's going on?
I just want to interject a sec, because maybe some people don't know they're having panic attacks, and it's important to talk about it. When I experienced them as well, I worked as a dentist assistant, absolutely loved the job. I learned all the medical jargon, etc., like absolutely everything. And I love to help people. So it was really almost a dream job. But there was so many toxic things around it, and I burnt out. And I didn't know what was happening to me. My experience of a panic attack was like, I felt like I had heart problems, and like my throat was like clenching like this, and I'd lock myself in the stock room every morning. It was almost every morning because it was physical. I had to go there, cry, stop. I felt like I was stopping breathing, but I was actually
Mm-hmm.
breathing, just panicking. It would take like 5-10 minutes, and then I'd, again, same as you, wipe my tears, put my nurse outfit on, and just start the day. And that was like the beginning of every single working day. And I felt like I had throat problems or something. And I remember when I explained it to my doctor, they gave me a throat numbing
Oh.
spray. It was everything. They said it was my asthma. It was like, I was like, oh, wow, it's triggering my asthma. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It was everything but mental kind of issues. And now, thank God, I don't have panic attacks anymore. It means I'm in a good state. But just that recognition of like, that's your body alarming you, isn't it? It's saying, please stop whatever
Exactly.
you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it's like your body can't take it anymore, and your mental state can't take it anymore. That it literally needed to give a strong reaction for you to do something about it. Because a lot of things happen before it leads to there. And we are great at dismissing things. Again, we're like creatures of habit, and we don't want things to disrupt our routines and our lives. So when we start getting these symptoms that are I'm gonna take a paracetamol for my headache. I'm going to just take a nap to take my sore muscles to help my sore muscles. Oh, I'm going to have coffee because I didn't sleep. We find solutions to literally all of it until panic attacks start happening, and then you're like, I feel like I stopped breathing, exactly how you said it. And it really like takes over your body and you can't stop it. And it's such a horrible, horrible feeling. And I think, again, when people never have it or they don't realize how scary it could be, and especially if you start having them on and on and on, you're really not okay and you really need to do something. And again, it's sad that doctors at that time wouldn't be able to recognize that this is a panic attack and this is to do with your mental state and you have to do something about it. And next to that, the anxiety, like I would be anxious to go out in the street. I'm like, hey, I go to this, like, I go to the streets all the time. I want to say, like, I am, like, I walk outside all the time and I am, yeah, I do my life. And I started being afraid of doing my life. I started being afraid to talk to my friends. I started being, like, always having this very tight chest. It's horrible. It's horrible. Quality of my life went so down. And the accumulation of these things, additionally, I started to have like my ears that were ringing. I felt so weak that I could like literally fall if I'm walking down the stairs. It really had to get bad for me to do something about it, which again, I had so many signs, and from here I really want to tell people that if you have any of these signs, take some time to go to the doctor and see how your blood test is to see if there's anything that you should look into, and then also sit with a therapist or with a counselor to maybe talk about how your life is, because these things can help you prevent the burnout, because once it happens, it really takes a long time to recover, and the worse it gets, the more time you need. And I really wish there was someone to tell me this when I was younger. I want really people that are in their early 20s, anytime in their life, to really take these signs seriously, because you don't want to get there. It's better to bring some balance, try to find better routines, understand yourself, your value, you're really enough. It's great that you exist with us. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. We're very happy for you to exist with us. And I wish these things happened and people told me this, because I wouldn't have pushed myself to. I didn't plan on crying today, but
Oh,
um so I wish people would understand that, a lot of the reasons we push ourselves to a lot of limits is to do things that we like, but also to prove to ourselves that we're worth it. And we are worth it. And again, it's great that we want to pursue certain things and we want to pursue our objectives and goals. And it's important to do it in a very kind way to ourselves, to really give ourselves the grace to do it. It takes time. Everything takes time. And this is something I never accepted. I never accepted that. What? You think I need 2 years for me to do XYZ? I'm like, I'm gonna do it in 6 months. And I know that the reason I was thinking about this is because of all the success stories I see online and I see in Silicon Valley. I'm like, wow, I want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. Not anymore. But younger me saw these success stories of men and women and they and thems that actually turned their life around with one thing. And I grew up believing in myself, like the things that I like and things I want to do, and I don't take no for an answer. So, and I also believed that actually these people had these successes overnight. It was after my burnout and after sitting with myself and seeing that actually things take time that I realized things take time. Things will take time, and I am here to do it, and I'm here to yeah, do the work until it happens, and things don't have to happen so fast, so I don't need to push my limits that much. And then when my burnout happened, there was the conversation I needed to have with my manager, because it's very uncomfortable to tell your manager, oh, I am weak and I can't be working anymore, because I was portraying myself as this, again, go-getter, someone who's strong, who doesn't like stop until she gets things done. And he was very, very like understanding, because he had something similar in his life before. He was like, yeah, take your 2 weeks, like just go relax. And I told him I don't think it's gonna take 2 weeks. Honestly, I had that talk with him in the morning, and then in the afternoon, my chest was so tight. I had to call the emergency line and say, "Hi, I think something is happening with my heart. Can I come?" And she said she started taking like asking me questions, and I was like, "No, it doesn't feel like this. It doesn't feel like this." So she told me, "Okay, come to the doctor tomorrow. I don't think this is a heart attack. So you're okay. Just try to breathe." So the next day I went to the doctor, and then the diagnosis was that I had a burnout, quite like advanced stage in a way. And he gave me a month sick leave. And then after that month, I mean, all in all, it became like 6 to 8 months sick leave. And it was horrendous. It was horrible. It was like one of the most horrible times of my life because it questions everything that I am, and it questions the reason I left my country. It all of these questions of my identity. A lot of my identity was on I am someone who goes for it, and I am someone who achieves things. To I am home and I can't even make my cup of coffee, away from family, alone. But I also realized afterwards that I needed that, and I'm very lucky that it happened when I was 26, because it really changed my life and the way I lead my life. And it also gave me the opportunity to tell people about it so that they don't get there, and raise this awareness and bring this perspective that you can be successful and healthy. You just have to accept that things take time and that you need to safeguard yourself, and stress is okay, and you need to offset it, offset it, offset it. This is like at the core of it. You are going to get stressed. You need to offset it so your body doesn't catch things and you don't get into the survival mode and then everything locks in. You need to keep the wheel running, or like the wheel turning. So stress, offset, stress, offset, stress, offset. Again, you know there is a period coming up that is going to be very stressful. You need a vacation at the end of it. That literally means you doing nothing, like this, either in the mountains, either in the beach. And if you start getting symptoms, you have to sit with yourself and be like, okay, I understand I want to go places. I understand that this is important, that I work very hard for my job. So what are the elements that are going to bring me, that are going to release my stress, that I'm able to do? So it could be that, I don't know, you start doing certain breathing exercises that help your body relax. This is why meditation is talked about, even if a lot of things became cliche with mental health, like, oh, doing your journaling and gratitude, also cliche. I'm like, yeah, it works. You have to bring back to your life what are the things you're grateful for and you're happy with, to bring back your mind to the present so that it doesn't get into this spiral of, oh, what am I doing with my life? I'm so stressed about the results of this and this and this. But coming back to, oh, everything is okay. Breathing exercises so your body knows you're not locked into a survival situation, that maybe you are chased by a lion and then you have to run. It's just an email. It was just a call. So many reminders and so many things I had to unlearn and learn from the all over again. But the best is to prevent. So if anyone feels any of these symptoms, if they feel more of these symptoms, it's good to go to the doctor first, get everything checked, and then sit with yourself and understand, where is this coming from? And try to really put down, what are the things you're working on now? What are the things that are bringing you stress? What are the things that bring you usually joy? And try to balancing out and help yourself. And I'm a big fan of supplements and herbal remedies. I took courses online because I wanted to know everything. I was like, what is this herb for? What is this herb for? So I have also my own things where I drink rhodiola, for example, in the morning because it helps with my stress levels. I have maca powder. I have a lot of things that I do so that I can keep myself healthy when I have stressful periods. So also this is something good to do as a prevention. What are the things that can help you? Chocolate is amazing.
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate is so good for stress management.
And you can buy it for €1.
Lindt, please sponsor this podcast. Thank you.
That would be great. Yeah, we love you. I absolutely agree. And something I learned as well by myself is that if you sit by yourself long enough, 30 minutes, an hour, it can even be 10, you are so wise. I think people don't know this because they search for validation or answers on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on Google, on ChatGPT. You know the answer, right? And we try so hard to like not have that conversation with ourselves. So having that moment of silence where it's like you ask yourself that question, like, okay, I'm exhausted, I'm a bit tired. What is it? And just sit with it. And your body will eventually, like, it just comes up with the answer. And then you're like, aha. But people are so afraid to even acknowledge a burnout or acknowledge that they're exhausted and have that inner dialogue because they're afraid of the answer and they're afraid of taking these steps of, oh, now I'm that person
Mm-hmm.
that goes to the doctor and gets signed off and has to be off sick for 6 months.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a go-getter. I relate to this as well. I think neurodivergent people who have what is it called, OCD or something, you know, very task focused people in the neuro space really struggle with letting go and mindfulness and being still and slowing down because we have this rush mentality, like, if I don't do this now, if I don't do this tonight, I'm a failure
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, essentially. Like whether it's a project or, oh, I just came up with this idea, I should put this in the presentation, or, oh, I've got a speaking gig tomorrow. If I don't stay up and recite my keynote all night, I'm not going to be good tomorrow. And
Mm-hmm.
then you lose sleep, and then you are terrible tomorrow, and then you're kicking yourself. So that's so interesting that, like, yeah, like maybe more tailored to neuro people, like ADHD and stuff, that it is so hard to stop what you're doing and not hyper focus and take yourself out of that and just be with yourself and be still and seek those answers within for a minute.
Yeah, you're totally right. And as you said, it's you don't know what you're gonna find. So do you want to open the box? Um, and that's why it's important to open the box at some point, because if you keep just shoving things into the box, it's gonna explode on your face eventually. So the sooner, this is like, a PSA, just open the box as soon as possible, so that it doesn't get so full that it explodes on you. And I think also intuition in general is something that we do not give a lot of attention to or a lot of importance to, because we do have answers within ourselves. And we also, the more we live, the more we encounter different experiences that give us certain learnings. And that becomes the basis for um, future decisions. So when we are in a certain situation, uh, we feel something. Sometimes it's anxiety, but sometimes it's also your gut telling you that this is right or this is wrong. So also coming back to this intuition and trying to nurture this intuition, try to really give your soul and yourself this time off, this time of bit of calm, so that your intuition can tell you something, is also important.
So is this the answer then? Because for example, if I'm not ready to go to the doctors, I'm not ready to tell my company or my boss, I'm experiencing burnout or I'm disengaged or I'm just not ready for that conversation and I want to fix myself. Is that then the only way to be like mindful and meditate and regulate myself? Or are there any other ways that I could do that and prevent a burnout?
Hmm. Um, I think sitting with ourselves and answering the question of how am I, really, how really, really am I, can help us at least, like peek into the box. Uh, and if we're scared, I think our best bet is to try and get a therapy session. I think as much as we would love to help ourselves, having external support can be very beneficial in this first phase of facing your fears and facing this box that have been closed for a while and that now is getting like a little bit like um I remember the first time I was gonna go to therapy, I Googled 10 questions that therapists ask their patient because I wanted to be prepared for my therapy session. And I
Like a
laughed,
job interview.
like literally like a job interview. I was like, I need to be prepared. I can't say wrong answers. And I really like caught myself in that thought and I was like, oh my God, I really have to go to therapy because this is weird. This is not okay that I'm trying to prepare for a therapy session. And when I went to the therapy session, I told her, I was like, I was so scared to come here and talk because I don't know what we're gonna talk about. And then she was asking me questions like, "Oh, what did you do? What were the questions?" and so on. And that helped like break the ice. But I would it's very scary. The fear is not gonna go anywhere, either to go to the doctor, either to go to therapy, either to like really face the fact that something is off. So the sooner, of course, I understand that we want to help ourselves at the beginning. So yes, I would say sitting with ourselves, doing some journaling, trying to understand where in our body are we feeling things. So are you feeling that your chest is tight? Are you feeling that your throat is tight? Are you feeling that you have headaches? Are you feeling that you have tight hips, for example? There's something very interesting about hips feeling tight, is that it means there is emotional baggage. So, and a lot of cultures, especially like African cultures, Latin American cultures, they have music and they dance like with their hips, and that helps them as actually as cultures and tribes to release the built up stress. Because when you move your hips, you actually release emotional baggage, and that's so cool because there is like a lot of like a big relationship between our body, like the somatic therapy.
I was going to say, yeah, semantic,
Like yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
therapy.
And you like you can release certain emotions by moving your body. So this is also something that could be helpful at the beginning when we're not ready yet to open the box with a professional,
Yeah.
is to go to a belly dance class, move your hips.
And that sounds fun. It sounds
Right?
better than therapy or telling my boss
Yes.
I have issues.
Go to an African dance class. Yoga, the stretches in yoga, especially when you do like a butterfly pose or whenever you open up your hips. Um, this is something that happened to me, is that whenever I do that pose and I am in a stressful time, I start crying
Mm,
because there's literally a release, and then I start crying, 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 and that feels so good because then I feel like something is out. It's not just like inside.
mm.
Movements that are like just really shaking your body are also very good to offset that tension until you're ready to go. But also, it's important to not do these things to just numb away, not numb away, but like say, oh, I dealt with it, because that literally is just putting a band aid.
Mm.
But you need to really be honest with yourself that in a month, in 6 weeks, I'm gonna go to the doctor. But for now, this is what I'm gonna do to ensure that I don't get worse. Um, and I know conversations with managers are very difficult to take, especially you don't know how the manager is. Are they going to take you for a weak person that they have to get rid of now? Or that they actually feel the empathy and understand that this is a phase, says nothing about you, literally. And I I always frame mental health in general, like the struggles that we have with mental health, always start with the systems that we are part of. I think we come into the systems thinking that, oh, we're going to easily win, while a lot of us are set for failure. I mean, just coming as a foreigner, person of color, woman, trying to do something, the system is already built for a white man who operates in a certain way, and I don't operate like that. So the more things you add on, if a person has ADHD, if a person has like they are more an introvert than an extrovert, if the person are more analytical than they are creative, the more differences and like personality traits you add into this, the more you're not going to be able to make it as easily as you think and as easily as they promote it to us to be.
Mm.
Like a lot of media, a lot of movies show you this person and then they're like so confident and they go to that meeting and ask for that promotion. And then you're like, wow, I want to be like this.
I'm
But
thinking of Samantha from Sex and the City. Yeah.
I was thinking of Mad Men actually.
Ah.
And I'm like, yeah, I know I can do this. But then I am someone who's actually shy in general. I don't go for it right away. I really need to motivate myself. I'm someone who's very, very empathic and very sensitive and very like emotion driven. So if I have to ask for something, I I don't like to like be strong in what I say, but I learned to be like that because this is what the world is asking me to be. And then I'm like it depends, introvert, extrovert. I'm a bit of an ambivert in the middle, so sometimes it's different personas that come out. And also, I mean, in the spectrum of ADHD, in the spectrum of autism, like we're all a little bit here and there. We all have some traits I mean, I don't want to self-diagnose myself by saying all of this, but we have certain traits that are very personal to us. And the more we are actually quite unique in the way we're made, the more it's difficult to fit in the systems that we're asked to fit into. So then you come in and you expect that everything is going to go great because you're smart, you like your job, you are someone who is kind, and then things don't go your way. And then you start trying to blend in, force yourself to become someone. And then your mental health takes a toll because it's like, but we're not like this. We're not someone who, like, every time you have to speak up at a meeting because people are very extroverted, you feel this pressure that you have to talk because your manager is going to tell you, why are you not proactive? Why didn't you ask questions? While you're someone who absorbs and then thinks of the question and then goes later and actually makes perfect sense in their extra questions about the project. Like, every one of us is so unique, but unfortunately we're built in a world where it's like three boxes that you have to fit in. So this is also my way to reclaim this. I'm like, nobody gets to tell me what I can be or what I can do, because if I exist, I'm sure a lot of people exist. And in this way, if we show up the way we are and if we really ask for respect and being like seen the way we are, and the more of us do it, the more we're going to build a system that is there to help us succeed rather than where we're going to fail. So sometimes I also take it like as a vengeance where I'm like, you are not going to get me to burnout and then tell me I can't get my dreams. Now I'm going to get to my dreams the way I know I'm enough, the way I know my value, and you're going to see. And I'm going to do it with so much kindness and empathy. Just watch me. So also having this, having this also is very empowering.
It is.
So also saying it out loud is like, yes, there is space for all of us. There is no competition. We're all so unique in our own ways. And it is really time that we just forget all of these things that are so outdated
Yeah.
and go to the manager. And if the manager doesn't like it, maybe this is the way that, life is going to go take you places that you didn't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So also trusting the unknown is a really big thing to work on. That was very hard.
Yeah, that's a different episode. That's part 2 of Basma. I think the revolution is already happening with this, with people prioritizing themselves. Lots of questions, because I see it on social media, like, oh, where do I start? Who am I? I'm having a crisis. I just quit my job and I cried, like I'm seeing this everywhere. The revolution is happening, and there's going to be a tipping point where corporate and the professional world has to catch up with our individual needs and requirements.
Agree.
Is there something, Basma, we didn't mention in this podcast that you feel like is important to talk about?
No, actually, I think we touched upon a lot of things. And I think the main message of really understanding our value and seeing our uniqueness as a strength and really being the solution, I want to say. Because a lot of times we can get stuck into victimization mode. A lot of times we are not able to see the end of the tunnel. And of course, again, in the way we are unique, some people are able to take the fight. Some people are waiting for the road to be a little bit more built so that they can help. And then you have people who want also to walk. So also to understand where is our responsibility in this whole solution. So, and understand that not everyone needs to be at the front, not everyone needs to take the fight like in a strong way. Again, understanding ourselves, our strengths, our uniqueness, and then building on it. And always, really, the last message I want to say is how everyone is enough the way they are. Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful message. And just to wrap it up, I think society is having a trauma bond with itself against corporate.
I agree.
Professional world. I think this is the movement that's happening. Basma, it's been so insightful, so deep speaking with you today. Tell us what you've got going on and how we can reach out to you if I want your services or I want a workshop from you.
Yes. So I have a consultancy called AKL Consultancy. And AKL actually stands for A Kinder Lifestyle, because I really want to promote kindness and well-being in the workplace as a strategy to enhance performance, to have better retention, because I believe that well-being works hand in hand with, making the business a better place. So my website is aklconsultancy.co. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well as Basma Aziz. And I have workshops and strategy and trainings, and I'm available for keynotes and panels. And I would love to be part of the solution in this discussion of how to make the workplace fun and better again.
Yeah, and I'm going to direct people to your podcast.
Yes,
as well.
A kinder lifestyle podcast. Exactly. I'm like, yeah, I do have a podcast where I talk about burnout and symptoms and my experience. And it's very insightful if someone is going through something similar, because this is the reason I started. I wanted to create a space where people can relate to someone, especially if they don't have someone in their support system who has gone through burnout, so they can find a lot of insights in the podcast.
Basma, it's been a pleasure. I'm sure you've changed many people's lives today or made them realize that they're burnt out. And it's been amazing having you on. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Daisy, for having me.
That was beautiful. I couldn't have imagined a better first episode for Realistic Happiness.
Yeah, honestly, that's why I said you are the I knew it when I spoke to you. I was like, you are the one. You are the first one. You're the
I even
icebreaker.
cried. I'm like,
sorry.
what?
I want to give you a hug because I felt so bad.
No.
Bless.